Welcome to another episode of the Roll for Crit podcast, the official podcast for rollforcrit.com. Watch, shop, play. I'm Will Keeler.
I'm Jonathan Estes, and we have so many cool news stories and board games that we played to talk about this week, plus some awesome Kickstarters, so I hope you stay tuned for that. I'll do a little sad news of in memoriam right now. For those of you playing along at home with our personal lives, my cat Harrison, who you may have seen in videos and tweets, playing with board games, sitting in boxes, sadly passed away last week. I was very sick, and that's why we didn't have an episode last week. I was dealing with all that stuff. But he was a board game devotee, and thank you all for watching us and making us feel better about that kind of thing. So this episode is dedicated to his furry memory.
And all the boxes he sat in.
You can knock some cards off the table in his honor and get mad and have to pick them up again. So with that out of the way, without further ado, some cool things to talk about. First one that I know you have been buzzing about, the Fallout mini game from Modiphius. We got to play it at Gen Con, or
Yes.
you did. And we've been talking about it for a while now. Finally has gone up for pre-order officially on their website, and there are many different
Yes, there are a
tiers.
lot of tiers. The main one that probably a lot of people are going to look at is the two-player starter set. This comes with pretty much a little bit from everything and enough for obviously two people to play. That starts around $80. I expect when it comes with a lot of miniatures. And then of course there's starter sets where basically if you want to play with more of if you want to already build your Brotherhood of Steel army, you know, your Super Mutant army, so forth.
And I think the one you were saying is the two-player starter set, and the rest they're calling core boxes.
Yeah, I think those are more of like for you to have your one group instead of like the two players is actually designed to be like, I can buy this, then you and me can do our little skirmishes. In addition, though, yes, there is of course the get everything one.
Bundles.
Yes.
And there's one, so it starts, there's one that's somewhere around $400.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's, I think there's like a couple other smaller bundles maybe, but there's a $400 one. There's also one that goes for around $900.
Yes.
That is everything you can think of included. And that's pretty pricey, even for a miniatures game. That's a lot of money to be spending on anything. That's all. You could almost buy the new iPhone for that amount of money. So I don't know. We've just said it all the time. We're not huge miniatures gamers, and for miniatures gamers, there's more of an expectation of higher price cost with these types of things because there's lots of figures and models and all that kind of thing. But it seems like, from our reactions, what I've seen around the internet, even those kinds of people are a little taken aback by this $900 bundle. I mean, I don't know who the audience is for that. I really don't. Like, the most diehard Fallout fan, would you really jump into an unknown new system for $900?
And that's one of the things that's nice though. It's not the only thing. You have to recall.
That is, of course.
And that's the one thing that you can sort of take a breather, and that part of me, I think maybe just because the word pre-order's attached, in our mind, we're already thinking how Kickstarter works. Like, you have that only 30 days and you won't know if you can get it again. This is not that kind of system.
That's right, not Kickstarter, yeah.
So, honestly, when I look at it, obviously, looking at my own budget of what I can spend,
yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, maybe I could, if I decide, just get the two-player, and then later on, I just pick and choose what I want to do. Depending on what comes out, maybe I focus solely on the story, so maybe I don't need these things as much. Or if I focus completely on the battles, like if I knew you, for example, are also getting into it, I could be like, you know what, I don't need all that. I'm just building my Brotherhood of Steel unit, because let's be honest, if I was going to go, I'm doing them. But something like that. So there's definitely...
Yeah,
I think you just have to understand that there's not a timestamp on this. Slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah, in fact, very slow might win because maybe the price will actually drop.
Not only that, and I will say this too, like you said in the beginning, we're not really into the miniatures game yet. So we can't really tell you like, oh, this is way overpriced or way underpriced and stuff. Honestly, this does have you have to do research your own if it's big enough for you. I'm more curious to hear, because I haven't seen too much yet, more on how they do more of this, because they said they're going to do this, like story campaigns and stuff like that.
Yeah. And you, from what you played of the demo, you did like it a lot.
No, it was a very fun miniatures game. I think I liked the way it worked, and obviously there's some cool things that they said don't have in the story, like you can actually cripple limbs and stuff, which, you know, sounds very exciting if you've been a Fallout fan and know it has those little details in there.
Yeah, so if you are a Fallout fan and want a miniatures game, $80 is pretty standard for a game like this. That's not bad at all. It's just those other ones that are like, what? What's going on in that box? What am I getting there?
Well, I think some of the box actually even included, like, that's the thing, scenery. Like, you actually get that entire gas station I played
Right, yeah, like crazy models and stuff like that. Yeah, it'll. If anyone's buying one of those bundles, please tell us about it, because that's. I would be really interested. We'll probably would never find out their actual sales reports. What does sell the best for them? You know, how many people are buying that?
I would be curious to see if there's this one. You probably would find out if like almost everyone goes like one group. Like of the factions and stuff.
No, yeah, that would be interesting. Yeah, find out what they should have like a popularity poll, so you have to fight for your faction to be the best seller. Anyway, that's up right now on Modefus' website, so you can check that out. This is a cool announcement for a game that we've played, Eldritch Horror. I don't know, have you heard about this new expansion?
I did.
All right, great. Well, it's there right now. It is actually based on a pre-existing set. What do you call it? Adventure, I guess, from the Call of Cthulhu RPG, which they are also reintroducing around the same time as this to the newer edition of the Call of Cthulhu RPG. It is called Masks of Nyaralathotep, focuses around that guy Nyaralathotep, and there's a couple of cool new things, you know, in addition to the usual, like there's new cards and I think probably some extra board, that kind of stuff. Of
course.
One of the new things is personal stories, which are your character will actually have a little extra background detail, and you actually sort of have a goal, and if you meet it, you get to have a reward. And if you fail to meet it, if a certain other bad thing happens, there are consequences.
Yes, that actually was in Arkham Horror.
Okay.
And it was something I really liked, because it made it so you had this fun little side quest to do that overall, I think, for most, I mean, obviously there's so many characters, they can be a little wonky, but I thought it was reasonable and fun. So there was more, which I think is always great also in a cooperative game, because it's not just, all right, I'm just going to be the guy who constantly does this, because there could be those times when like, guys, I really want to spend my money going to the shop or whatever.
Yeah, like, no, we need you here. Like, oh, sorry, I have something to do.
But that, of course, allows to make the game not just for making it like we're just gonna make the monsters harder, because you had that chaos on that end. You can add more interesting stuff on the other end that's in just higher numbers.
Yeah, no, and the other really cool thing that they're adding, I think, is the first time they've already done this for Eldritch Horror, is a campaign mode. You're actually going to have a campaign where you play multiple games, and some things will carry over between them. They haven't really given a lot of details. We don't know exactly what's gonna. I don't know if there's gonna be like any kind of upgrade system type stuff. I don't know how deep they're going into it, but that's pretty cool. It's something we haven't seen. Well, really, we've experienced that lately with the Arkham Horror card game.
Yes.
And so now that maybe get that kind of even more thematic narrative experience with Eldritch, which is cool.
I mean, the entire, if I can say like 6 more times. I said it 3 times right during the description. If we could, I really do think I guess they call them the Arkham Horror Files, I think is the collection of all this.
Something like that, yeah.
Is definitely, they do a really good job, I think, with all the properties, with only one I think I've ever disliked. You haven't played it yet, and eventually we will, and we'll talk about it, and I'm sure I'm in the minority about it.
So it's a tease, all right.
But with Eldritch Horror, the Arkham card game, and then Arkham Horror 2, they get the story, the campaign just seems, like I told you when I played the Arkham card game, it was like, this is such an obvious fit.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So, Eldritch and Arkham have the components to do a campaign, like.
Yeah, I feel like we're getting to the point where there's almost as much stuff in Eldritch as there was in Arkham. I mean, I think it's getting pretty close with the amount of expansion.
It is, but from what I've played so far in Eldritch, sorry, I'm not fully caught up in expansions, but reasonably. Like, I have some, but I haven't played them. I do feel they fit better. Like Arkham, I felt sort of like you could put it on every board or not. You really couldn't do that in Eldritch. They made a thing like, guess what? If you're using the Arctic board, there's a reason you're using the Arctic board or the Egyptian. So they made it much more thematically clinging to the game.
Got it. More of a focused experience. So we're gonna do this one tonight, this one.
Right, which I think is a better fit.
Yeah, interesting. So I'm pretty sure this is coming out later this year. I'm not sure about the RPG book. I think around.
I know. First time you can try it is they have like the mini Arkham Horror Convention.
Horror Nights that they do, or Arkham Nights. Yeah. So it'd be good for Halloween. It won't be out by then, but you can think about it on Halloween this year. All right, I got another new game / expansion announcement. A brand new version of Specter Ops. This one is called Shadow of Babel from Plaid Hat. We have discussed this Specter Ops series a bunch now. This is a standalone new game in that same series based on the original title, which was a one versus all stealth hidden movement game in a science fiction cyber future world.
I guess it would have fallen into cyberpunk?
It's probably cyberpunk. Yeah, I think you could call it that. This one, it's a standalone, as I said, but of course it is combinable with the other set, so you can have it can be expansion as well. Comes with some cool new stuff, new hunters and new agents, of course.
One would hope.
I mean, like, it's standalone, so yeah, you need that. Some of the ones they have are really cool. One of them has a dog. One of the hunters has a dog, so it will bark if it sees the person, and you can go over there and get help. One of them is like a robot, I think, and it can see through. If it doesn't move that much, it can see through walls.
Ooh, that's
very powerful. There's also a couple agents they've shown us. Mantis is one that can stun the hunters, and there's one called Panther who has an ability where they can place their last scene token next to where they actually.
Did all the agents have animal names?
Yeah, pretty sure they're all animal names.
It just occurred to me like,
hey, it makes sense now. There's also some cool new items in there that I thought I really liked. There's now a proximity mine that you can place for the hunters to get hit by.
You mean for the agents?
For the agent to place.
Yeah, that's what I meant. It's agent. Yeah,
right.
No, I mean I definitely felt that is a big thing because I remember when I haven't played as the agent yet. I always played as a hunter.
Huh.
But I know the times you've played, you're like I have very limited, and it was really annoying. I remember that one time with the flash grenade. You threw it at the sniper to the sniper's like left, but because the sniper was aiming down scope, the law technically says it can't see left and right, so it didn't actually stun them.
Oh man, I think I blocked that out of my memory.
It was like this one of those annoying little loopholes. So I think that Mo items also helps a lot because I remember one of the things we talked about in that game was once you play it 2 or 3 times, that's gonna happen. You're gonna I know he's got like 4 choices here, 4 choices here.
Right. Variety is definitely a helpful thing. Of course, there's a whole new board as well, different with a different layout. What do you think in general of the standalone expansion? Because they Plaid Hat did this with Dead of Winter also. And I don't think it's something we see that often, but I don't know if it's because I know some people are like, oh, I wish if it wasn't standalone, maybe I would spend less because I already have the base.
That's true, and here's the thing, it depends on the game. This one makes 100% sense because one, here are the things we'd want from an expansion. A new board. B, new characters. If you already have both those things, you have another game.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
And then if you play this game a lot, C, a new notepad.
Right. That brings up another point which a lot of people have griped about, which is they announced a long time ago an app.
Yeah, no, we actually covered it when they first showed it.
Yeah, we saw it. Was that Gen Con, I think?
Yeah, 2016.
Year, I guess. And that's still not out. So yeah, people are waiting. Maybe they'll release it with this new game.
I mean, when we saw it, we're like, this is a no-brainer. It's perfect.
I know, then back to what you were saying about the expansions. I think Dead of Winter was definitely, maybe a bit of a misstep compared to this because a lot of the components in that were just doubles of the base.
Yeah,
and it felt a little messy.
That's the thing. I don't know how much of that you needed a whole new base game for compared to this one.
Yeah.
Did you really need maybe 1 or 2 new locations, but not a full game's worth? I haven't looked through. You have, because obviously
It's a lot. It's a lot.
And obviously new characters are sort of fun, but it didn't feel, at least right now when I'm thinking about it, as desirable for a whole heavy base set compared to this. This to me seems much more.
I know. I think from their perspective as a company, they also think, well, we'll get more sales because then we can sell this both to people who have the first game and people who don't, which is interesting. But I don't know. I think, as you said, it depends on the game. In this case, I think it was a good choice.
I think honestly, it had to come down to if you look at what people want. And if it just so happens you can make a game from what they want,
right?
Then yeah, it's probably a good thing.
Might as well. All right, and then finally one weird little news story we just caught wind of on the show. You know Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
It's a card game.
It's an old card game.
Yeah, pretty old, 1700s or so.
And as you know, with many brands that have lasted a while, if you've done any research, you can tell that they tend to change logos. Right. Now, Magic has changed its own logo. With the exception on the back of cards, you can actually see the original logo there. That's the same logo they've used every time, so you can always use any card from any set without worrying about the backs of the cards.
Right.
So we're currently we're on the 1, 2. I have to count in my head again. Third iteration.
Third or fourth
iteration. Yeah.
And so you can see that behind us now. That's what's the current, as of yesterday or so, Magic the Gathering logo. And they did announce what it's going to look like, the brand new one. So here we'll switch over to that, and that's what it's going to look like from now on. If you're not watching this, go just look up a picture of it. But I would say it definitely has a more modern sort of look, but not modern in the sense that it looks like a lot of kind of graphic design fonts and logos I feel look these days, which is like a sleeker kind of smooth aesthetic. It doesn't have the gradient anymore of the like yellow orange thing that.
Well, not only that, if you can actually go back.
Yeah, I can. I have the power of technology.
Like up until that last logo.
Yeah.
The Magic logo has been the exact same font and everything, just like painted differently.
They've never done any drastic change.
Right. Like the first one was blue, which you can see on the back. Then it was sort of a red outline with yellow in the center. The one that was current up until now was actually the color of what's called mythic rare in the rarities. It's like the little foil symbol. So, that's the best.
Right.
And this now actually, it has that same thing, like the A's a little bit, like has that space. It's still different. Honestly, I don't think I'm much of a fan of the new one.
I mean, my first reaction was that I think it looks terrible. And I've seen a bunch of companies, it seems like, lately, like I think it was Firefox, just that came out with the new logo like a few months ago, that have this weird idea that, it's 2017, we gotta update our look and be more modern and hip, and it's almost always worse. And I especially for Magic the Gathering, that logo is so iconic. I'm surprised they ever would want to change it that much, just because I feel like people look at that and see that, and it just has this so much history to it.
Well, not only that, because that logo is so history, is even though, and then it's sort of interesting too to look at the art of the cards, going forward. If you look back at some of the original cards, they look sort of weird and interesting, but that's because they said like, if you were the artist, it'd be like, you're drawing the art for this dragon, go. Right. They didn't really do anything. Now, let's say I had this dragon, I'm like, all right, we have this dragon, I need to have 4 wings, it needs to be upright, like they're much stricter with their art.
They wanted to have consistency with the lore and all that kind of thing.
Which is interesting, because it made some things look, I think, very smoother and nicer in some ways, but at the same time, it's almost like you lose some of that old fantasy flair.
It's a trade-off.
And the logo had that though. Like it still had the old bumps and stuff, even though you had the shiny mythic rare finish.
Yeah.
This just has that straight, I want to call it like like cyberpunk, like we'd seen Netrunner or like we were talking about earlier. But Magic isn't that. And I think that's where I think my issues come from.
Yeah. So according to their press release, they wanted this to be more of an all-encompassing, to be able to cover all the arena thing and whatever RPG content, whatever else they plan on doing with Magic in the future. It also focuses more on it's the Planeswalker symbol, right?
Well, that symbol has been put with the old logo too. So I don't mind that symbol next to it. That's fine, because that is their Planeswalker symbol, and I know they're trying to, and successfully making it so, when you play Magic, there's Jace.
Right.
It's not just you play Magic. There's dragons and elves.
It also seems, and in light of what you're saying about how, they're never going to change the back of the card, it seems even stranger because they're just going to now confuse people between the two logos. If you just came into it, they're like, wait, so it seems like a brand no-no to have, really, you have two different logos advertising the same thing. Seems strange all around. I don't know. I'm not a fan of it, but in all likelihood, a year from now, we're going to be like, yeah, that's the logo. It won't, we'll be used to it.
Well, I think you mentioned it because it was just announced, and I think you might be still able to sign up for the beta now. I'm not sure. It's for the arenas, their new arena game, and we'll see how that goes. I don't know if it's going to be as popular as they're hoping it will be. It seems like because was it Dota? Valve with Dota made their.
I don't know if that came out yet or not.
No, but was it them?
Yeah, it's a Dota.
And if we recall when they announced that, there was just booing.
Yeah. Although there are somewhat different expectations for Valve versus Wizards of the Coast.
No, I mean that's true, but at the same time, this almost feels like with the arena game, if that fails, do they want to still let's go back to the old logo?
Could be. They might backtrack. Who knows?
I'm very curious to see how that turns out.
Yeah, let us know how you feel about this brand new logo. Now we got some Kickstarters for you.
Oh, we do.
Some big old Kickstarters. This one was actually from last week, but it's a big one. The Resident Evil 2 board game. This is coming from the same guys who did the Dark Souls board game, Steamforged Games. So they have, whatever your feelings are on that game, they have a track record of handling video game properties. We kind of talked about this because they announced it while we were at Gen Con. But it's based on the video game Resident Evil 2. You have characters, you're going around Raccoon City, you're fighting zombies. It's fully cooperative. You're, rolling dice for combat. You can roll to try to dodge and avoid enemies. I'm pretty sure there's campaign and solo play as well, but there's different scenarios and goals and objectives and that kind of thing. The one thing that I thought looked cool about it overall is it seems like it's really embracing the survival horror aspect of it, where you're going to be worrying about bullets and can I fight this enemy because maybe the gun will attract
played
zombies.
Through all of them?
I'm familiar with Resident Evil 2 and other games, but I have never really sat down and played through Resident Evil 2. When my first reaction honestly to this was a little disappointed because I feel like the first Resident Evil would make a really great board game because I feel like being in the mansion would be so much fun versus the city. But maybe they thought, oh, there's already Mansions of Madness and Betrayal. Maybe that's why they.
Well, I think there's more better minis in 2, like Nemesis and stuff.
But I would be
fine. Nemesis 2, right?
No, I think Nemesis is a different game. Yeah.
I'm mixed. I'm a little fuzzy with the early ones. I came at 4.
Right. But I would be fine with them saying it's just Resident Evil, the board game. It's a mansion, and then you can take zombies or monsters from any of them. I don't see why. It seems very weird. It's a weird decision to me to start with 2 and just say 2 rather than just all Resident Evil.
To me, what I think is funny about this is that as a Fallout fan, both the miniatures game that we talked about earlier and the new Fantasy Flight game that we reported on both said, we're going to focus on 3 and 4 first, not New Vegas or the old ones. So it's like,
but they're called Fallout, right? They're not called Fallout 3 and 4 as opposed to this.
No, but my point is that they're not focusing on Resident Evil 6. It's interesting
it's
that
they're old one is what you're saying.
Yeah, I just find it very interesting that.
Yeah, Resident Evil is definitely has more. Well, no, that's not really true. Fallout they both have lots of nostalgia associated with those older games. So, clearly someone at Steamforged just loves Resident Evil 2 and said, this is the one I want to make a game
we don't
of.
blame you.
Yeah, no, that's cool. And like I said, looking at it actually does look really fun. Another thing the game has is a tension deck. So at the end of your turn, you have to draw it and something bad or horrible might happen or nothing might happen. So there's some cool ideas in there. And it goes for, it's like $94.
A lot of miniatures.
Lots of miniatures, and there's lots of also stretch goals. One of the cool add-ons I liked was a retro pack, which makes all the items and stuff in the cards actually look like screenshots from the game.
I think a Leon miniature was like one of the stretch goals. Like you can get a weird version of him.
Yeah, I don't remember. I know Claire was in this one. I don't remember who else was in 2, but anyway, it looks cool. Resident Evil 2. If it's successful, I hope they do But then are they going to do just Resident Evil? And then people are like, wait, you started with 2? Or are they going to call it Resident Evil The Mansion or something?
I honestly, I think if you're a Resident Evil fan, you're not going to complain.
That's true. Just for someone who doesn't know, it seems like...
True, but at that point, you're probably already questioning it now.
Yeah.
You're like, where's 1? And then you find a deck building game.
There you go. Or if they do 4, that would be cool too. I don't know how they do it. All right, so that's Resident Evil 2. That's up there right now. Another one from Everything Epic.
Yes, we came to you earlier with their Lost Station, and now they have a new one called Coma Ward. Now, in this one, you actually wake up. It's a cooperative game, but you all wake up pretty much in like a hospital wing. You know nothing.
Okay.
Like, you don't even know who you are. You don't know like what's going on. And
Is
you
it an abandoned hospital?
Well,
who knows? All right.
As far as you know, it's empty. I'll just say that.
Okay.
But it's up to you, like, to go around, try to find clues, items, try to stay focused, or the tiles can like flip and become. You can see illusions and shit.
All right.
And apparently, you also have like little envelopes that will be your personal identities. And if you solve things, you might find out who you truly are and stuff.
Oh.
So it's this whole like.
So is that all not sort of a legacy-ish kind of thing, where like you're not supposed to open the envelope yet?
I think from what I can tell, I wouldn't say legacy as much as like you'll have more like clue, I guess. Okay. You have like random stuff you don't know what that is and what you want to do.
Okay.
But it just, to me, I mean, when it comes to horror, hospitals are scary. So, but the fact that it starts off like white and clean, I think, is very interesting. So it has much more of that. You're not really sure what's going on yet, what's real, what's not. It's not the obvious, like when we talked about just one lobotomy, where like you look around that board, yeah, bad things are going around. Like,
yeah, there's no question about it. Is this co-op too?
Well, until you find out your identities and stuff, it sort of has that.
Oh, a little bit of a haunt mechanic.
Yeah.
Okay.
But from what I can tell, it's not. It's a bit more balanced, obviously, because it's not just randomly what's drawn. It's you actually have goals.
I wonder if there would be. I'm guessing, like you could.
I'm sure you can take out
co-op.
Yeah.
Or not.
I'm sure a lot of them are probably like Dead of Winter style. I didn't want to do too much because once you know that, you're like, I almost don't want to know the goals. And when you get it, you're like, but you know how Dead of Winter, it's like you're not the bad guy. You just want for food.
Right. So that one is up for $50.
Yep.
Which is a pretty good price. Sounds like a lot of fun. They make great games. Everything Epic. Now, speaking of hospitals,
a more positive version.
A less scary version of a hospital. Talking about Dice Hospital.
Yeah, you are each running a hospital, and there are patients who will be the dice. And you roll them, and they're pretty much how healthy they are. Is the number of dots on them. Okay. So 6, they're good. 1, not so good. So it's up to you. There's like a bidding of who goes first by the ambulance. Like if you want to go first, you're taking the ambulance that has the worst patients on them. So it's like a balancing of where do you want placement versus healthy patients.
Okay.
And you're gonna be getting experts and building up your hospital, get certain rooms to help heal people and get them quicker out of the hospital. Okay. Back up to 6, or they die, obviously, if you wait too long. So it looked like a really fun sort of worker placement die management kind of system that looked really cool.
Yeah, no, I mean, the idea of rolling the die is hilarious. They need to do the expansion, add like 20-sided dice.
No, what I was hoping that some of the dice would just be like 1 and 2. Like it's bad.
They're not good. It's a coin. Now, Dice Hospital undercuts Coma Ward by $1. It's only $49. So they were really trying to get in on that hospital craze. It's a competitive market.
Oh yeah.
Right now on Kickstarter. And finally, this one is sort of an accessory. It is the Game Folio 2.0. So they had this already. This is the new, upgraded, enhanced versions of the Game Folio. It is various bags and containers to hold your board games, either for travel or just for organization's sake, whatever reason that you want. And they have all kinds of pouches in them, different options for like foam bits to store minis in, sleeve holders, all that kind of stuff that you would want.
Yeah, and what's really nice is the pledge levels. They have a lot of levels for whatever your bag needs. Like these are designed if you can get one if you're more of a card person, if you're more of the board game person, if you are more of the minis person. Like they made a wide variety there to help fit your need.
There's a $20 ones for like small games, and it goes up to like their large sizes, like $80, and then they have bundles. You can mix and match. So yeah, it's really whatever suits the kind of games that you have or are taking with you. You can pick what you want. I don't know as far as I know, you don't have any kind of thing like this, right?
Unless you count the really cheap tote bags I have.
Yeah, that's what we've seen several of these Kickstarters with various different types of organization things for different purposes, and we never have used any of them. We're always just carrying our board games around like
that's I'll admit there's like an 80% reasoning is just the money that would go to this. I'm like, I already spent on burgers.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I think this is really cool, but for me personally, also like part of it is honestly, I don't. It's sort of maybe it's like a collector mentality or thing where I like having it in the box, and like if I was really going on a vacation and wanted to pack a bunch maybe, but just taking to someone's house, I want to have a box.
I think two of the reasons is where we live. Like I would probably get this if I lived in a city, because I'm more like walking around with it and stuff.
Yeah, that's
but
true.
We live in more of a suburb rural area, and we're either usually where my collection is or where your collection is.
Right. Yeah, there's not as much to worry about.
We don't have as many people who use as our gaming area, so.
Yeah, let us know what you think about that. But if you are looking for a board game bag, these guys do a pretty great job from what we've seen. This is 2.0, so you know they're successful. All right, now we played some really good and interesting games that I'm excited to talk about. First one is Custom Heroes from AEG, and we did discuss this a little bit from you played it, or we got to see it at PhD.
Got to see it, yeah.
We didn't actually get to play it until the other night. Tell them what's the deal.
So mostly it's basically a trick game. When the starting player may play like 2 3s, for example, and it's up to people to try to empty their hand by either playing an equal or higher number of cards. However, the whole gimmick in this is you're playing heroes, and you also have these see-through upgrade cards, which you can use to change like a 3 to a 7 in order to beat another card, or lower, whatever the case may be.
So if you are familiar with Mystic Vale, this is the same designer using that same card crafting system, which is really cool.
So when you start off with, we played with 3 players, so start off with 3 sets for numbers 1 through 10. We ended up with maybe 1 6, 1 9, and everything else like 12 or above.
Yeah, some 12s, a couple of 16s.
Yeah.
There. And there's also subtracting ones too. Sometimes you want to make a card worse or better, and you can't, there's a limit. Each one can only have 4 upgrades to it, so you can't just like stack one with 20.
And there'll be some rare ones that have abilities, which you can either spend using power tokens or to earn power tokens by not using the abilities, which switch things up a bit, which I'll talk a little bit later on after we talk about our experience of the game. So it just becomes this sort of wild thing. And the interesting thing is, if I upgrade my card to be really good, all the cards are shuffled and re-dealt again next round. I might not have that. He might.
Right, yeah, so it's not like just because you upgrade your cards, you're almost sort of relying on each other to upgrade the cards equally, so you don't get a really bad hand, or you get, so I don't know if you really mentioned, because the other thing you can do is you can start with just 1 card, but if you have multiple cards of the same number, you can play as many as you have.
Yeah, just like I meant, like a general trick set, you can play either 1 or 3.
Right, so like one hand, just from all the cards we augmented, I had like 5 8s.
Yeah, so you're just like...
You only start with what, 10 cards?
Yeah, so you're just like, 8!
Yeah, it's like, okay, I'm halfway done. This is great. There's also a pretty good catch-up mechanic where they award you points or not based on how well you ended in the round.
The first person who ends their hand gets the most victory points, but the least amount of upgrade cards and power tokens. And as you go down, you get less victory points, but you get more of the other 2.
Right.
So if I did really poorly and came in last, I'm not getting victory points, but I'm going to have all these upgrade cards next turn, and you're just going to be terrified because I'm going to be like, beat you, beat you, beat you.
Yeah, so I really like this game. Honestly, I liked it more than Mystic Vale. It's a very simple kind of trick-taking game, but the upgrade element adds plenty of interesting depth. So that, I mean, every time you play, you are literally going to have completely different cards, and based on who you're playing with and what you're even going to get. Even every round, it's unpredictable in a good way.
I did enjoy it, but I gotta say, I really wish we played with more people.
Yeah,
and here are my reasons. Because those 3 turned out to be like, this person won this round, then this one, it's sort of like almost predictably rotated. And the other big thing is we didn't have you get a number of ability cards depending on the number of players. If there are more players, there are more ability cards, and some of them, I mean, you didn't get to read through them, but some of them are really cool. One is you play at the beginning of the round, and instead of for that round, instead of going for a higher number, you go for lower. So if you played three sixes, 3 5s beats that.
No, that's very interesting. And
so
that's late game.
No, you can do some really crazy stuff. That's why it definitely was a lot of fun, and I love the customization thing. This isn't much of a grape because it is protecting it, but just a heads up, if you do buy this and you're shuffling all the upgrade cards, you're gonna get a lot. They put a little plastic film to protect the cards in the factory. You're gonna have to peel a lot of that off before you.
Or you're gonna get to.
Yeah,
it feels good. Another thing I'll say about this game is once you get into it, the actual gameplay itself is very fast and very obvious to pick up on. But in teaching it, I thought especially if you're not familiar with something like Mystic Vale, it can be, I found it like a little weird to wrap my head around just exactly, I can play these numbers this time, so then when can I upgrade? Anytime, and then I can take it out or I can't. So I would say that's maybe a caveat just for new players, or people who aren't major board game players. I don't know that the learning curve time matches the actual depth, you know what I mean?
Well, of course, that's why we know Mystic Vale was actually designed to do that for Edge of Darkness. And I just made me think of something, but then I totally forgot about it. But
teaching, easy to play, sleeves. I don't know.
But yeah, overall, a lot of fun messing around.
The artwork is cool and funny. Yeah. The different things you can add onto them with the new cards.
Yeah, and if something adds or subtracts, you can, depending on how cool it is, it sort of makes sense. Like something that adds +9 would be this awesome sword with a skull on it, and something that's -4 is your character's holding a fish.
Right. So yeah, really funny. Check out Custom Heroes. It's a good game. Next up, we played another kind of small-ish little card game. This one was a Kickstarter that I backed a while ago called Matryoshka, based on those Russian nesting dolls. And this comes actually from the designer of Sheriff of Nottingham, and this one we played with, I think, the max amount of players. And it's pretty simple. Also, it's a set collection game. There are 10 sets of 7 cards each of nesting dolls, and you are trying to trade with other players to get the ones that you want to put. Ultimately, you're going to end up with a grid of 13 cards, and you arrange them in rows by set and in columns by number. I'll put up a picture so that this makes sense, because it's sort of weird if you can't see it. And you get points based on having more of a full set of one or multiples of one number. So if you have the full set of 1 through 7 in blue, that's really great. Or if you have a 5 from every set, that's also pretty good. So you're trying to do some combination of those two things, and the way the game actually plays, though, is every round one person puts a card up for trade, and everyone else has to offer one card from their hand that they might want to trade with that person, and they decide which card they want. So you're trying to gauge, what do other people want, what can I offer that they might want so they'll give me something good in return for it. There's a lot of mind reading.
The other big thing is you're actually showing off some of the cards you have before each round. Right. And these are ones you can't trade. So you tend to look, I have this set, which you can start seeing in the first game. This didn't really happen to us this game, but we screwed up the first time we played around, so we had to restart. But I put out some cards, and I noticed you had the other 2 cards from the set, and someone else had a third. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna trade these next time I go back, and they come back to my hand.
Right. Or I would see oh, that guy has 1 through 3, and then 5 through 7, and I have the 4. So I know if there's something he has that I really want, if I put that 4 out, he's gonna give me something for it, or I'd just be I'm never giving him this 4.
Right. But it's that sort of nice back and forth of the give and take of, I know what you want. Is it worth for me to give this to you or not?
Yes, who's going to come out on top? And because the scoring system, which is maybe my biggest gripe with the game, isn't super straightforward, And because you're not showing your whole hand at once, some of your cards are in your hand or on your field, it's not easy to really be able to tell, oh, that guy's definitely in the lead. So it might not be a good deal for you, but you might not know that, so you're going to take a leap and say, let's trade and hopefully this works out for me.
Right.
Because sometimes in games it's like, well, of course I'm not going to trade with you. It's better for you. So I really like this one too. This game was another very fun, simple one. I felt it was the perfect kind of game to kind of just have around the table, have some, some beer and like some snacks, and you can like talk.
You mean some vodka?
Yeah, some vodka, some hard
Pierogies.
tequila, and just.
Oh, I was going more with the Russian theme.
I see. I thought you were just an alcoholic.
Only on Fridays.
But it's it's simple enough that you can do other stuff while talking, but fun enough that there's actually a game there.
Yeah,
it was a great like poker. It really fits that mold well.
Yeah.
I thought. The thing with the scoring was it was just, I think
it's worded poorly.
it is definitely, it's a very small game, super small box, and the rule book is just one sheet.
There's actually another game in that box.
Yeah, it's crazy. And they really went in theme. So yeah, it could have benefited, I think, from just a couple more examples maybe. It wasn't super clear about, is there a limit to how many rows I can have or not? So that's my only thing. And maybe I hope somewhere online, maybe someone has laid out a better version of that. But anyway, check out Matryoshka. Again, and it's also the fact that it's super small is cool.
And finally, in terms of new games, we finally got a chance to try out Watson and Holmes, the competitive storytelling, crime-solving version of the Sherlock series, because I feel like they're now making them all look the same. So it seems
sort of, yeah. They can be kind of related.
But in this game, unlike the game Sherlock Holmes, which we have talked about, Consulting Detective, which we have talked about before, you are not cooperative in this. You're actually each playing as separate people trying to solve the mystery before the arrest. The way the game works is you each have your character. We played the first story, which actually doesn't allow you to have special characters, which actually have special powers.
Okay.
Which I guess is a sort of spoiler, but not too much because it doesn't actually go into the story. I'm going to avoid all spoilers for this because I understand people, because this is one of those games you play once and you're done.
Right.
For 13 cases. There will be locations laid out for you, numbered set up through envelopes when you open the game, and it is up to you you'll be bidding using carriage tokens to read the backs of the envelopes for clues.
So I might say I really want to go talk to the conductor of the train, and I'm going to bid 1. But if you said, well, I really want to go there even more, I'm going to bid 2, so I have to go somewhere else or try to outbid him again.
Right, and so on and so forth. Bidding will happen, and then once all bidding is done, people read the cards. And
to themselves.
Yes, to themselves. But once you're done, you can actually lock them with special tokens, in which people need other tokens to get around. So it becomes this whole thing of like, you can bluff and like, I'm going to lock this place. Not because there's anything good there, but because I think I can fool everyone to thinking that there's something good there. Or because there's something good there and you want people to spend the extra.
Right, and basically the backs of the cards are usually between 4 and 5 paragraphs of a story of Watson and Holmes investigating what happens there. And hopefully, after a certain number of cards, you're going to try to solve the mystery. When you're ready, you're going to go to the final spot and try to answer the questions they set to you about the whole mystery. And if you're right, you win.
But if you're wrong, you're eliminated from the game. But you become the voice of Sherlock Holmes, which allows people to, spending carriage tokens for another ability, to ask you either to see your answers or to check one of theirs. So it becomes this fun sort of push your luck in terms of trying to find the right answers or not. We all lost.
Yeah, no one won in our game. We all failed. There were 3 questions. I managed to get 2 of the 3 correct. So that was a shame. And this was the easiest case, presumably. It was the first one. But that's too bad. But I had a lot of fun. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't, from what I remembered about this game, I didn't realize it was this story-based. I thought there was going to be a little more gaminess rather than purely deduction, but I was okay with that because I like those kinds of games. And it was very interesting because it is competitive. You're not working together. I wasn't allowed to voice my thoughts out loud to get support.
Well, yeah, and unlike everyone else at the table, you and I have actually played a few games as consulting detective. So we're already, we already have this thing like, we're used to being like, all right, you got the newspaper, I'm going to write down the, like
I remember, I will be very vague, but there was like, someone else guessed that this person was the culprit, and I was like, of course that wasn't the person. Are you kidding me? It was obviously not because of this and this. Or yeah, like your more experienced will be like, oh, I can tell like this is probably important. But you're also not allowed to go back and look at the cards again unless you actually go to that place. So you're taking notes.
Which became funny because some people were lost and saw a card later and were like, I should have took more notes.
Right.
Should have taken more notes?
Either way. I think it's Tukin. So yeah, you're trying to figure out what's important, what's not, trying to solve that mystery is a lot of fun before the other players. I really liked it. It was cool.
No, I'm excited to play it more. Honestly, I like all of the.
I will say there's not like, if you want a game that has a lot of interaction, this isn't it. Some people might be turned off by the fact that most of it is really you reading to yourself.
Yeah, honestly, if you don't like already the Sherlock Holmes style in the story, or just reading a book, this might not be for you. But
I wonder if it might be fun for some people to do it cooperatively. If just like two people just say, let's just share our information and just try to figure it out and just have fun or something like that. I don't know.
I mean, you could, but that's why I think consulting detective
Right,
exists.
You're probably better off with that other game. Also important to note that these are all original cases, so you're not, if you've read Sherlock Holmes, you're not going to be like, oh, I know the answer.
Yeah, I prepared for this reading all of Sherlock, and I.
Right. So yeah, cool.
I mean,
I have one other.
No, please.
Which is that in this first case, I did think there were one or two cheats that I won't say, but that were like information that was hidden from us that I felt in retrospect didn't really make sense to have been hidden from us. It was okay. It didn't really take away from the enjoyment, but it did feel a little bit like they cheated to get more mystery out of it.
Well, I think also once we hit the more advanced ones where they're allowed to be more complicated, that won't feel as much.
Yeah, maybe they were like, look, we had to do something.
But overall, I mean, I'm a big fan of these puzzle games, and I know you are too. Even if I know like some people complained about the idea of this being one shot, but with 13 cases in the box, that's still.
I couldn't tell you. I couldn't count. What am I trying to say?
I don't know what you're trying to say.
What I'm trying to say.
Hold on, do I need to spend a clue token?
If I play a game 13 times, that's a miracle. So if you're someone who says 13 times isn't enough, then God bless you. But for as far as I'm concerned, that's plenty. So Watson and Holmes. So successful game night, lots of fun games. Before we go, I want to invite everybody to leave a comment if you have any questions. There are a couple things I'm curious to hear people's thoughts on maybe for the future. They just launched an open beta for the new Legends of the Five Rings RPG from Fantasy Flight. You can actually go to their website and download the beta and try it out right now. That'd be cool if anyone wants to tell us how they feel about that. I know you were saying there's a Fire Emblem print and play someone made.
Oh yeah, I guess we didn't have too much, so this is a very small Reddit on Reddit thing. We saw when we talked about our games that we wish people made of. It turns out recently someone using, because they're a big fan of the Fire Emblem Heroes app game, made a card game version for people to play with that sort of plays a lot like like Summoner Wars kind of, you're going to draft 6 heroes and put them on a board and move them around, and they have life and abilities and stuff. Obviously, I mean, take a look. It looks really cool.
So there's 2 free games you can go print and play right now if you need a new game to play. Leave a comment, as we said, for anything like that. Also like and subscribe. More videos coming your way. We'd appreciate that. Where else could they find us?
Oh, we're on many places. At Roll4Crit on Twitter, as well as Instagram, Facebook. We're also a free print and play ourselves. Unfortunately, we're currently 404 site.
That's right. Try back later. Connection is wonky. And of course, you can go to roll4crit.com for all these videos in storage, plus board games and news that you can actually purchase. The board games, not the news. Plus so much more. Lots of fun. You always want to keep up to date on there. We appreciate you watching or listening to us. Subscribe on iTunes, YouTube, all that good stuff.
And until then, I'm O'Keeler.
Yeah, I'm Jonathan Estes. This has been Roll for Crit.